Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Zach Watches Things podcast. Get it? Because my channel name is Zach Films Things. Anyways, welcome to our first episode. In this podcast, I want to dissect media and really just get into the details, whether that be the production, the set design, the story, just everything. So, we'll be looking at movies, TV shows, musicals, and pretty much everything else you can press play on. The reason media is so interesting to me is because last year I took a film class and it changed the way I watch everything. Whenever I go to the movies, I'll be like, oh, that's a long shot. Oh, that's a close up. How'd they get that shot? Like, my brain is like physically altered because of this class. But the basis of this podcast is I will watch something every week and tell you guys my thoughts. And today I want to look at the Broadway show Hamilton. I recently got the pleasure to watch this musical again the other day with my stepdad and my mom. About to say my stepmom. And I realized I forgot how good this podcast is. Like parts of the show where they're all singing, but it doesn't overwhelm you, and like you can still hear them all. Like that's literally crazy. Like my brain could not write that if I wanted to. Or like how well they depict Hamilton's need for everyone to like him, understand him, and like feel good, feel bad for him. I guess I don't know. He's just a funky little guy. So, let's get into it. This show basically begins with. Sorry, there's gonna be spoilers about Hamilton in here. So if you want to watch it before you come back here, please do. It's on Disney Plus. So I'll see you after you watch Hamilton. And for those of you who have seen it or just don't care, let's begin. The show begins with a prologue basically explaining that Hamilton had a rough start to life, moving from house to house and experiencing just a modicum of tragedies, like how his mom died and his cousin killed himself. And then it cuts to Hamilton in America and he's talking to Aaron Burr. This is where
talk less. What? Smile more.
line is, like where it comes from. It is super chilling considering how the Hamilton Burr thing ends up. And Burr also says fools who run their mouths end up shot, which is also crazy. Then we get to probably the most famous line in all of Hamilton, and probably the most requoted throughout the show is, I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Again, all this coming from like Lin-Manuel Miranda is like crazy. After Hamilton talks to Burr, he meets these three guys at a bar, and these are going to be Hercules Mulligan, John Lawrence, and of course, my favorite, Lafayette. They all become fast friends and they start singing, obviously. Hamilton is already not taking Burr's advice with this song. He's showing what he stands for. He's showing that in America, he's going to take a stand, create a legacy. Like, he basically doesn't care what Burr says. He's showing that he was lucky to get to America, and he's not going to waste it by sitting in the corner and watching everyone else go by, which is, like, fair, but we'll see he gets, like, cockier as the show goes on. He goes on to say that what they're doing right now isn't just a moment and it's a movement, which is such good foreshadowing because in this show they basically start the revolution. Like, so yeah. And in the fashion of Hamilton just ignoring Burr, he literally ends up on a soapbox in this song, which is like, dude, Aaron Burr being like, shut up and watch. Other people will be the ones to like do the crazy stuff. You don't need to be that guy. And Hamilton being like, I'm gonna stand on this soapbox and tell you about like what I feel is like hilarious. And then yeah, like I said, Hamilton goes the opposite direction with him being the one who actually starts the revolution in the first place with the three other men. Speaking of revolutionizing, the next scene depicts Hamilton, Lafayette, and Mulligan and Lawrence telling the story of tonight, and them singing about how tomorrow there will be more of them in the fight. Again, showing the advice Hamilton received from Burr just totally disregarded, thrown out the window. In the next scene, we are introduced to the Schuyler sisters. Angelica, Eliza, and how excited they are to be alive right now. Right from the start, you can kind of notice how Angelica is the boss and just kinds of is the one to tell her sisters like what to think and like what what to do. And we learn that Angelica is looking for a partner, or in the song, a mind at work. The sisters run into Aaron Burr, who not so discreetly tells Angelica that he would love it if he chose his mind at work. Um, and she basically just like rejects him and says that she's been reading, and when she meets Thomas Jefferson, that she says she wants women to be included in the sequel, which means like in the Constitution. Angelica wants women to be included in the sequel to the Constitution. This is another one of the times where I'm just awed like by the singing where it overlaps, where like the company is singing the one thing and then you can still hear Angelica like singing as well. It's just like so good. Um we then hear a message from the king via like a messenger in the square. I don't actually know where they are, just kind of the set is a square. So but Mulligans tells Hamilton to, quote, rip this guy apart because he's saying things like, this new Congress doesn't speak for me, basically saying there's no need for a revolution because, like, the crown is able, like, the King George has got this, guys. And then we get introduced to the actual king, where we hear one of my favorite songs in the show. My favorite line, specifically being,
Cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 da.
that is King George is one of like the best written things in this show because he's just like crazy. And oh, I forget the guy who plays him. I think his name's Jonathan Groff. Oh my god, that is his name anyway. He's such a good actor. I love him. I love the king. He's hilarious. After we get that message from the king, we get to meet the next pivotal character, one George Washington. And then he proceeds to rap about how the British have more force than them. He says like outgunned, outmanned, da 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 da, outplanned, stuff like that. Then we meet Burr again, and he applies to be the so-called right-hand man of General Washington, only to be so rudely interrupted by none other than, yep, it's Hamilton. Washington had called upon Hamilton to be the right-hand man, and so he asks Burr to leave. Washington offers the job to be the right-hand man to Hamilton, and he takes it. The next scene is Burr, and he's salty and he's venting about how Hamilton like stole his job, and he calls him a bastard, obnoxious, arrogant, and a loudmouth, clearly upset about Washington hiring Hamilton instead of him. And then it turns around and Burr goes like tells us about how him and Hamilton are like similar in the fact that they can get women. It's like the like, oh my gosh, I hate Hamilton. That guy sucks. He stole my job. And then it's like, but the ladies. And then you're like, where'd that come from? Like, not really sure. Not really sure about that one, but guess I'm here for the ride now. And then we get one of the songs I have on repeat all the time, which is "Helpless," and this is the song where Eliza, Skylar, and Hamilton meet, date, and then get married, like all in this one song. When I was watching this with my mom, she goes, 2 weeks? Because literally they meet, and then like 2 weeks later, Hamilton is asking for Philip Schuyler's blessing. So my mom was like, 2 weeks, that's it? And my stepdad, like without missing a beat, goes, yeah, people died. No, not a beat skipped. He's like, yeah, they died. I can't. Okay. This is a perfect moment to talk about the Hamilton Company, and it shows how it's like how different the company is involved in the show versus like other shows. Um, like in this show, they will have the scene start and then kind of have the setting like be placed around them while they start singing, and then but in other shows it'll be like personally I've when I go to see like a high school production, like they'll fade the lights and then change the setting, but Hamilton, like, they change the setting while the scene is already happening, which is really cool. And I think it keeps like the viewer engaged instead of like distracted and like waiting for something to like happen. It's like already happening. And which is very interesting. Like I like it. Like it's different. Gotta love it. But back to the song Helpless. This is mostly Eliza's song. Um and it's basically by every metric a love song. But it's like so eloquent that you can tell Eliza is very knowledgeable, well read, and very ladylike. Like that everything she says is very put together and beautiful. Like I said, this is mostly Eliza's song, but Alex jumps in and the company is still singing backup. Like the company sings "Helpless" like behind when Eliza does. And Hamilton says like, "Eliza, swear to God, I'll never make you feel so." And then the company comes in and says "Helpless," like right in like that space of time when he's not speaking. And it shows like despite not knowing the whole truth about each other, that they are like already fitting in and like they're really good together and all that. And like they're fitting into each other's worlds like two puzzle pieces already, and it's really cute. And in the part of the song where they get married, this is just a side note, but Hercules Mulligan is their flower girl, and he's like, "Yeah, guys," and it's hilarious. And then the next song is sung by Angelica again, where we learn about the night that Eliza and Alex met. And Angelica tells us that she's going to regret that night forever. She tells us that when she first met Hamilton, he seemed intelligent, which is what she was looking for the first time when we met her. She's saying she's looking for a mind at work, and that is Hamilton and will continue to be Hamilton. Um, she also says that when Alex first said hi to her, she forgot her own name and that he set every part of her aflame, which is like, ooh, juicy. Um, and Alex is talking to Angelica and now telling her that she seems to be a woman who has never been satisfied. And Hamilton continues and says they are alike in that sense, that they've never been satisfied. She says that she has never met anyone like him and that the conversation just flowed with that and they saw eye to eye on like such a level that she began asking herself like, what's the catch? Which is like, that sucks for her, dude. Like, she shouldn't have to ask herself that. But Angelica realizes, though, that she can never be with him, both because Eliza is in love with him and the fact that, like, her job is to marry rich to prove to her father that she isn't a failure and to prove, like, to everyone else that, like, her father, like, has an heir now because he only had girls. She thinks that Hamilton only wants her for her last name and to elevate himself in the social scene, which also sucks. Like that shouldn't be a thing she has to think about. She knows that if she told Eliza that she liked Hamilton, that he would be hers in an instant, but she knows she can't do that because that would break Eliza and it would really hurt her. She ends this song with a foreshadowing line, like I mentioned before, that is, "He will never be satisfied. I will never be satisfied." Which chills. As we'll see, like that is the most true, and I continue to reference that. Like she's so right. The next scene again is the four: Hamilton, Mulligan, Lafayette, and Lawrence, and now they're talking to Aaron Burr. And it gets revealed that Burr has like a girlfriend who is coincidentally married to a British officer. Burr is getting advice from Hamilton on the girl, and like Hamilton says that Burr should go and get her. But Burr doesn't really take that because we know Burr, he's not going to go out and do anything crazy. He's going to be reserved and all that. He tells us that Theodosia writes him a letter every day and that her husband is fighting in Georgia. But Burr is finally like opening up to us. Like he's been this guy who's like quiet, reserved, doesn't show people his like true intentions. But now he's letting us in, so to speak, and he's showing us like more emotion than he ever has before, showing how reserved he really is. Yeah, but this is a reserved love song, which shows how similar Burr and Angelica really are, because we just saw Angelica's like requited love song, and now here's Burr's. Again, these lyrics are very powerful as well. Burr sings, "Love doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes." Again, like pointing like almost directly towards Angelica, being like, Burr goes on to talk about Hamilton, saying that he has an endless uphill climb and that he has something to prove and nothing to lose, which we know is incorrect just a little bit at least, not about the hill climb because that part is true, but he has Angelica now. I mean Eliza. He has Eliza now. And more importantly, like a war to win against like the British and all that. Bird then shows his jealousy, saying that Hamilton shows no restraint and he is hurt, and it shows that he's hurt that Hamilton threw his advice out the window, saying that Hamilton takes and takes and takes and takes. A few songs later, Hamilton is at home with Eliza when we learn that Eliza is pregnant with their son, and them going through the motions together is literally adorable. Like, Hamilton ends the song and he's like laying against her belly, and it's like, aww. This is the first time we see Eliza mention the narrative, which in this song means the story they will write about them, about how Alexander was such a good father, how he stayed and took care of his kids, and Eliza. Eliza will keep mentioning the narrative in more and more powerful ways as we go on, so prepare for that. She says in this song, she continues, that money isn't a problem and them just being together would, quote, be enough, which just shows how dedicated she is to him. But as we come to find out, he doesn't hold those same values, which is heartbreaking because Eliza deserves the world. Like, she's like probably the best character in here. Burr comes back after this emotional song as a narrator to tell us how the US has been victorious in their battles against the British and that they are waving the first United States flag. Who is helping them, you ask? Why, it's that fly French guy Lafayette. Lafayette tells us that the French are giving the US more guns, ships, men, and gifts, but he says that those gifts will help them be victorious, but not without a strategy. Like, these will definitely help you guys, but you guys need a plan, like, so to speak. Who can help them with strategy? Why, it's no other than Alexander Hamilton once again. Washington finally admits that he was somewhat wrong in not giving Hamilton a troop to command, that he needs his help to win this war. He also warns Hamilton not to go crazy with power, quote, "History has its or in other words, like, hindsight is 2020, in a way, like, warning him, like, don't screw this up. This will be, like, written about and, like, scrutinized from now on." And then it shoots forward to Hamilton being at the Battle of Yorktown, where Hamilton is telling us how much this opportunity means to him, but also how much it's costing him to be there. He sort of says he's never felt more like ingrained somewhere or more like he felt like he belonged somewhere. But he also reminds himself that Eliza needs him, and more importantly, his child needs him, and that he can't mess this up. I love the storytelling of how, like, loud the company and the singing is, because when the music gets upbeat, because it really shows that in the song they're proud of what they're doing. They're proud that the US is winning. They're proud that Hercules Mulligan was a spy. They're proud that they thought of that. Proud that it worked. They're winning against the British, and it's like they're giving themselves a pat on the back, and I love it because it's just great storytelling. The song ends with the war being over and the British conceding. It also ends with Hamilton being overjoyed with the opportunity to meet his son, which is adorable. After the war is won, we get another message from King George. He says that America cheated by using Lafayette's resources and caused him even more trouble because now he's at war with France and Spain. He pokes fun at America and the fact that they must now find a leader and unite, and he wonders how that will go over. King George ends this song with "Whatever comes next, you're on your own," which is like sort of a farewell in like his own right. Like, he's finally admitting like that they're no longer his, but also kind of like being condescending. He's like, "Not my problem, guys." The next song is a duet, well, sort of, with Burr and Hamilton talking about their kids and an emotional ballad. Burr goes first, and that he never saw domestic life as something he would be interested in or that he would enjoy, but that Theodosia's smile makes him melt, which, oh my god, which is adorable. He says that she will come of age with America and that he will make it a good place for her and that she'll blow us all away. Side note, while I was doing some research on Theodosia, I learned that, like, she grew up and got married and then, like, got lost at sea, which is, like, crazy. Oh, yeah, we're gonna do great things. Actually, I'm lost at sea, guys. Side note over. I just thought that was funny. Hamilton goes next, and he also says that Philip's smile makes him, like, knocks him out, and he says that he's going to be the opposite of his father, who was never around, and that he'll make sure that Philip grows up well and, like, knows all this stuff. After they sing about a better life for their kids, Hamilton gets a letter from John Lauren's father saying that he passed away and that his dream of commanding an all-black battalion passed away with him. Alexander immediately says he has more work to do and goes back to New York after the war to practice law in order to continue the legacy he's been building and continue the revolution because it's far from over. And like Angelica said, he's never going to be satisfied. And of course, who's there also? It's Aaron Burr. He's practicing law as well, and Burr says that even though him and Hamilton started, like, practicing at the same time, Hamilton is climbing further and faster and just doing a little bit better than Burr is, and he is doing so because he, quote, never stops. This song is yet another popular one, the lyrics saying, "Why do you write like you're running out of time?" And "Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room?" This is where we are informed that Hamilton was chosen for the Constitutional Convention. Wow, I said that right the first time. When I was practicing our Constitutional Convention. Then we see Hamilton going to ask Burr for assistance. He wants Burr to help him with the new US Constitution. It will be a series of essays, like, help, like, continuing the Constitution and just making it better. And Burr asks, like, why him? What if it fails? And Hamilton tells Burr that that's why he's here. Like, he doesn't want it to fail, and he thinks that, like, Burr is a better lawyer than him. And he, like, doesn't want this, like, new constitution to fail, and that's why he needs his help. Burr says no initially, and Hamilton asks Burr why he isn't taking a stand and why he never takes a stand. Burr basically doesn't answer the question, and he says he will continue to keep his plans close to his chest, and that he's waiting to see where things go, where the birth of the country will take him, not where he will take it. And this sends Alexander into a spiral where Angelica and Eliza ask him if just being with his family would be enough. We then learn about the Federalist Papers, a collection of 85 essays defending the new U.S. Constitution. They are written by John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. And we learned that they were originally only supposed to write 25 essays between the three of them, but as I mentioned before, they wrote 85. John Jay wrote 5, James Madison wrote 29, and Hamilton wrote the other 51. Which is crazy. Imagine being, like, assigned, like, what's 25 divided by 3? Like 7 essays, 7-ish, like 8 essays, and writing 51 instead. Like, anyways, Washington then asked Hamilton to help him run the new country, because Washington is the first president of the U.S., as we know. Hamilton agrees, and he chooses to run the Treasury. Eliza asks him not to go, and this is one of the times where Hamilton is just, like, a straight up ass. He tells Eliza and uses one of her, like, lines before, which is, "Look at how lucky we are to be alive right now," turning her, like, playful, excited, like, new line about the new world, like, right in her face, and telling her that he must go and he doesn't care about her or the feelings of hers or their kids' feelings. Like, he's just like, don't care, babe, gotta go. And it's like, that sucks. And it just proves Angelica right again. And he will, in fact, never be satisfied, and it shows. He's showing Eliza his true colors and not being consoling at all. This part of the song is where they're all overlapping and it's showing like the inside of Hamilton's head. Eliza, Washington, and Angelica all trying to be like the one he listens to, showing that he is indeed conflicted. Eliza says that her and his kids should be enough. Angelica says that he'll never be satisfied, and Washington says that history has its eyes, and they're all right. And then it ends with them all in unison saying history has its eyes, because no matter what he picks, it's like conflicting. This is a telltale sign that he is actually kind of having a hard time choosing which facet of his life will be the one he chooses, like what will be his legacy. This also shows that he was really never going to choose Eliza and his kids, because what history would that be changing? What would be satisfying about that? He goes on to show more callousness with, quote, I'm not throwing away my shot again, showing us that he was choosing from the beginning the leadership and power he was going to get with being part of the government, which we kind of already knew he was going to pick that. It just is like, why pretend that you're going to like pick Eliza and then not? It's just like, it's not very nice. Yeah. So after that, we get introduced to Thomas Jefferson, who has been in Paris being the American ambassador to France. After we get introed to Thomas Jefferson, Hamilton gets chosen to be the Treasury, obviously. So Thomas Jefferson is gonna be the state lead, the Department of State lead. This is another one of the songs, which is pretty funny. Um, this is the first cabinet meeting where Thomas Jefferson is in attendance, and Lin-Manuel Miranda is a genius for this one. He sets it up like an episode of Wild and Out where they have like a rap battle between Hamilton and Jefferson. And at this meeting, we learn that Hamilton is proposing the first United States Treasury, where all the states would like have the same debts together. They would all compile their debts and they would all pay it off together. Jefferson brings up, why should one state have to pay another state's taxes? Like, if Virginia doesn't have any debt, but New York has a ton of debt, why should they have to pay for that? Because, like, why would they pay for that if their debts are paid? Hamilton comes back with, quote, hey, slaver, your debts are paid because you don't pay for labor. Which is another, like, this is an episode of Wild and Out. This is a roast. Like, get Jefferson some water. Like, you gotta love a diss where the information is just like correct, because Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner. Oh, wait, I don't know if Hamilton was a slave owner. That's for a different time. After Jefferson and Hamilton take their turns having their voices heard at this meeting, Hamilton goes too far with some toes definitely over the line there, sir, and Washington asks to speak to Hamilton in private. When he's going outside to Washington, Jefferson and Madison ridicule Hamilton, saying his new debt plan will never find congressional approval, which is like kind of true. After the council meets, we get to meet Hamilton and Eliza's son Philip for the first time, and it's Philip's 9th birthday, and he gives a present to his dad basically in the form of a rap with Eliza beatboxing behind him.
Philip, take it away. Daddy, look. My name is Philip. I am a poet. I wrote this poem just to show it. And I just turned 9.
After Philip's done, Eliza asks him to take a break and go with them upstate for the summer. Angelica writes and tells him that she will also be upstate and that he should join them. Yeah. And once again, what does Hamilton choose? It's his financial plan. Not his wife, not his kids, not Angelica. He chooses his legacy. Again and again and again and again, Hamilton chooses to be greedy. He can't spend more than 5 minutes with his family without, like, feeling guilty for his work that he left. Like, spend some time with your kids. Philip is 9, and we just met him. Like, men will never cease to amaze me. Like, it's crazy, actually. Anyways, in the next song, the craziest thing happens. So, Eliza, Angelica, and their whole family are upstate, and Hamilton is still in the city. And what does a single man do when his wife is not around? An affair, I guess. He has an affair. The song is catchy, I'll give you that. But, like, your wife is upstate and you're rich now. Like, just go get a ride. Like, you didn't need to sleep with this woman. In this song, the woman says, "Sir, I know you're a man of honor," which, like, not even 30 seconds later gets disproven because they literally have an affair. Anyways, she's like, "My husband's beating me and then he left and he's abusing me, but, like, I don't have any money to go on." Hamilton proceeds to give her $30 because her husband left and he walks her home. And when they get to her house, she takes him upstairs and we get the lyric slash prayer.
Pray, Lord, show me how to say no to this. I don't know how to say no to this. But my God, she looks so helpless. And her body's saying hell yes.
The company comes in yelling at him, like saying no, like yelling at him, like, just walk away, guy. That's how you say no to this. Like, push her off and walk home. Like, you have a wife and kids. Like, you didn't need to do this. But he doesn't push her off. He has the affair, and he continues having the affair for a month until he receives a letter from her husband. The letter is telling him that so long as Hamilton pays the husband, he will keep his mouth shut and not tell Eliza, and that Hamilton can keep seeing his quote whore wife. And then so Hamilton reads this letter and is like, "Oh no." And then so he goes over to the lady's house cuz obviously he walked her home. He knows where she lives. And he says, like, he goes and confronts her about the letter and she, like, outright denies, like, knowing anything about the letter. And I'm learning, like, more and more that the parts of, like, the songs where it overlaps is where the company and, like, the lead lyrics overlap are when Hamilton is conflicted, like, showing his mental state and, like, him trying to figure out what to do. And, like, all the ideas swimming around his head, trying to pick one is, like, the hardest part, obviously. So Hamilton ends up paying the husband. And then after he starts paying the husband, he goes and talks to Burr. Aaron Burr, sir. Hamilton says that he's going to do whatever it takes to get his new financial plan on the Congress floor, which, like, we know is, like, the only constant in his life now, like, putting his work above all else. Hamilton says that he's going to have dinner with James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, and this is where we get the title, like, "And no one was in the room where it happened." Yeah, Hamilton says he's going to dinner with James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and as the song says,
Two Virginians and an immigrant walk into a room diametrically opposed foes. They emerge with a compromise, having opened doors that were previously closed. The immigrant emerges with unprecedented financial power, a system he can shape however he wants. The Virginians emerge with the nation's capital. And here's the pièce de résistance. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened.
so this meeting was essentially a trading party between the two parties, the two groups, I guess. Jefferson and Hamilton wanted the capital to be closer to Virginia so that they could, like, work closer to home, as we learned from this song. And Hamilton needed the votes to get his financial plan passed, which also happened. But as Burr says, no one else was in the room where it happened. This whole thing is being sort of narrated by Burr, if you haven't noticed by now. So Hamilton says to Burr, "Burr, you can't win in the game if you've got no skin in the game," which is yet another diss to his, like, talk less, smile more thing. And Hamilton says he's trying to build something that outlives him, and it's like, wow. Scratches, like, we knew that. Um, anyways, the next scene is another Burr scene where we learn that Burr just won Philip Schuyler's Senate seat, and that's about it. Like, other than like Hamilton being angry about it, and like there's a small like scene where Philip and Eliza react to the news. Nothing really happens until the next council meeting. And the topic this time is whether the U.S. should aid France in their war against England. Jefferson gets the floor first again and says that France helped America win the war, and that all they asked in return was the same aid if war should befall them. And Hamilton says that they just signed a treaty with King Louis, but he's dead now. So, like, what's the point in helping them? Washington agrees with Hamilton and says that they are too weak to aid in someone else's war. And then Hamilton like leaves, and Jefferson and meets Aaron Burr for the first time, and the song is about like how they both want to see Hamilton like out of here. They want to see him fall. Jefferson says he wants someone to give him dirt on Hamilton to prove like to Washington that he's not like the little golden boy that everyone thinks he is. And then we get to go back to the meeting between Hamilton and Washington where he tells Hamilton that Jefferson resigned and did so that he could run for president. Washington also reveals that he will not be running for president again this time around. After we learn that Washington is not running for president, we get another message from the king, and he is once again terribly confused about how the U.S. is going to run their country. He is befuddled that George Washington is giving up his power, saying,
I wasn't aware that was something a person could do.
Which is really funny. He is also informed that John Adams will be the next president. And he goes on to say, like, John Adams? I know him. That's that little guy who spoke to me. And yeah, he calls him small, and like that the rest of America is gonna eat him alive. And then the next scene we get is the first look at the Adams administration, where Adams promptly fires Hamilton and privately calls him a bastard, which Burr has been doing this whole time and publicly, but whatever, we don't judge. Jefferson, Adams, and Burr all go confront Hamilton about the missing money from like different bank accounts totaling $1,000, all paid to James Reynolds. Burr says that they think he was embezzling funds, and that like they can quote see the headline now, like former treasury head of the US stealing money from the government. Hamilton asked the trio if they would keep their silence so long as he can prove that he wasn't committing embezzlement. They agree, but it's not like 100%. They look like if the juice is good enough, they would still spill the beans. Hamilton asks Burr if he can trust him not to tell anyone, like, about the affair, despite, like, if anything happens in the future. Burr tells him that only rumors only grow, and that they both know what they know. Taking that to heart, Hamilton decides to write the Reynolds pamphlet, which is an essay basically explaining the whole affair in great detail. And you can actually still read the Reynolds pamphlet if you so wish. Jefferson is reading the pamphlet and is overjoyed because, quote, "You never gonna be president now." And then Angelica returns from England after this whole like fiasco's down with the pamphlet and everything, and Hamilton thinks that she's there to comfort him, like the cocky, selfish person that he is. Angelica basically says that she could not be less interested in talking to Alexander, and that Alexander means diddly squat to her now that he has broken Eliza's heart, and now that he's broken his entirely, like, his family, like, wide open. And then she ends with, "I hope you're satisfied," which is so good. So good. Like, such a good rebuttal, such a good, like, make him think about what he's done, like, type of thing. The next song, Eliza mentions the narrative again. And like I said, this is probably one of the most powerful songs in the whole musical. She tells us things about how Hamilton's letters were keeping her going when like they first met and like they got separated. And she says, he was building cathedrals with paragraphs, which is beautiful. Eliza mentions something that Angelica said to her, quote, "You have married an Icarus, and he has flown too close to the sun," showing once again how Hamilton chose his so-called legacy over anyone in his life. He was so quick to admit to everyone that he had done this terrible thing, like without his wife's counsel on the matter. Like he did not ask her if he should like let this out. He didn't tell her about the affair, clearly. And like she had to learn from this pamphlet that everyone else was reading at the same time. Like again, proving that he doesn't care. He chooses the impression he's going to make on other people versus the one he's making of Eliza. And Eliza says she's rereading all of Alex's letters, trying to search for a time when he was hers, which is heartbreaking. It's like you do this one thing that's making your wife rethink her entire world. Like she's like was is he my husband? Like was he ever? Did he actually ever love me? It's like why would you do that to someone that you like thought you loved? It's like clearly like this like affair girl more. And then she goes on to say the world seemed to burn when she first read this pamphlet and its contents. And I think the most powerful line in this song is, "In clearing your name, you have ruined our lives," which is all encapsulating, showing like how little he cared for Eliza, but how deeply she cared for him. And another thing Eliza says is, "You are paranoid in every paragraph about how they perceive you," which again proves Angelica's point. Like, and it proves that like he was never gonna not talk about this, and like he was gonna let it come out, and like Alexander Hamilton will truly never be satisfied. Eliza says that she is gonna erase herself from the narrative, that people do not get the justice of knowing how she reacted to all of this, and this is probably the most powerful thing that she could have done, because like she didn't get the option to control her husband by like not having the affair, by not publishing anything, but she gets to choose to do this. She gets to choose to not like let everyone know. Like she kind of like gone like off about it, but it's so powerful and so heartbreaking to watch her be like, "No, I'm not gonna let anyone see how I reacted to this. They're not gonna get to know. I'm erasing myself from the narrative. Like, Alex, you suck." Like she ends a song by burning all the letters between her and Alex, which like just proves how like terribly betrayed she feels by all of this. And the next song we get is sung by Philip, telling us how he just graduated from King's College, which is where Alexander went as well. So it's cute. Like he's proud and it's adorable. Oh, sorry. He also tells us how he's looking for a guy that spoke wrongly about Hamilton, and how like he was speaking like badly about him in front of a crowd, and how he's going to find him. And he does end up finding him, and he challenges that guy to a duel. Philip then goes and tells his dad about the duel, and Hamilton tells him to aim towards the sky, and if his opponent has a shred of honor, he will do the same. But we learn that Philip's opposer does in fact not shoot in the air. He shoots Philip in the hip, and it ends up like lodging in like his right arm, which really sucks. Alexander and Eliza both arrive at Philip's bedside, and Eliza asks if Alexander knew about this. Like, do you like, yeah, did he know about this basically? And he doesn't answer her, but she can kind of tell. Philip then is like talking on his deathbed basically about how he enjoyed his childhood, and he's telling his mom like, "You used to put your hands on my hands when we were learning piano, and like I loved how you taught me French." And it's just like beautiful because only him and Eliza share these memories, and it's like Hamilton was never there to form any memories, so it's just really telling. Once Philip ends up passing away, Eliza lets out this guttural scream that only a mother could scream, because not only did her son die, so did those like years with him, those past 19 years where he was the only one there for her. Like Alex wasn't there. She had her kids, but like this was like terrible for her. Like Alex was doing whatever he does in the city and giving less than like a crap about his family. So by showing Eliza's true pain, they're also showing a glimpse into her life. And the next song is sad for a modicum of reasons. Um Showing that Alexander wasn't there for his family in the past, but he's trying to be there for them now. That by Philip dying, it was a wake-up call for him to actually like give a shit about the people who love him. This song says they are going through the unimaginable, which is truly powerful and just so, so sad. This song is where Alex finally admits all of his wrongdoings over the years, where he apologizes to Eliza using her previous lyric, and the company sings. The last line could not be more accurate because he lost everything when he like published the Reynolds pamphlet. He's like back at square one, like square zero, because like even the first time Eliza was interested in him first. So he's in short like just trying to win her back. And it works. They end up holding hands in like the middle of this song. And Eliza shows that she's forgiving him, like slowly but surely. And like this is like I was crying while I was writing the script. Like um despite all that Alexander has put her through, she still decides to forgive him because deep down she still loves him. And it's like in the next scene is the Thomas Jefferson election of 1800. We learn that the candidates are Jefferson and Burr, and we also learn that the endorsement of Hamilton is highly sought after. Like I don't understand that one. It's like, guys, he just published his affair. His kid just died, and he's like trying to like from square one, guys. It's like maybe leave the poor guy alone. It's like, geez, Lou. Um, well, in the end, he chooses Jefferson. He justifies his choice by saying that though he has never agreed with Jefferson, that at least Jefferson has views and Burr has none. And Jefferson wins in a landslide. Even though the rules are the person that who comes in second is vice president, Jefferson changes that and basically kicks Burr to the curb. This is definitely the most vengeful we've seen Burr so far. He's already ranting about Hamilton as soon as Jefferson leaves. He's like, every failure is Hamilton's fault. He writes a letter to him like stating that he's the reason, like Hamilton's the reason he can't get anywhere. Hamilton writes him a letter in return stating that he's not the reason no one trusts him. It's because no one knows what Burr stands for or believes in. It's like, how can you trust someone you know nothing about? You can't. Like, Hamilton includes a list of their disagreements in the past 30 years just to, like, show off, I guess. Burr then challenges Hamilton to a duel, and Hamilton agrees. The two meet for the duel, and only Burr walks away, as you might know. Burr seems regretful in the aftermath. He sings, "Death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes." And in the final song entitled "Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story," we learn it's Eliza. Eliza and Angelica were the ones telling this story. They worked to preserve the memory of the founding father who didn't get to grow old, who is Hamilton. We also learned she helped build the Washington Monument, helping tell his story as well. And she spoke about slavery. We learned that she was the proudest of an orphanage that she helped build, helping raise hundreds of kids without homes, which is probably the best way to honor someone, honoring both Philip and Alexander. And the most amazing way of showing who told Eliza's story is Philippa, who plays Eliza, breaks the fourth wall at the end to see like the people sitting in the audience. Saying by us watching, by Lin-Manuel creating, we are all telling Eliza's story. It's beautiful. How it all comes together in the end. Chef's kiss. And that's pretty much it. I overall think Hamilton is an amazing show with great actors and actresses. I think that they did a great job of depicting everything that happens in the story, whether that be the singing, acting, body language, and everything else that comes from Lin-Manuel Miranda's mind. In summary, this musical deserved everything it got. Like, they won a Grammy, which is pretty, like, that's for a musical. They won a Pulitzer Prize and they won 11 Tonys when it came out, which is amazing. So thank you to everyone who made it through this whole thing. Thank you for making it to the end. The next podcast will either be doing dissecting the film Don't Worry Darling or dissecting Naruto with my brother. So make sure you subscribe, turn on those post notifications so you don't miss anything. And again, thank you guys so much. Goodbye.